KayFabe Smark Podcast. Welcome to the KayFabe Smark Podcast with Eric Todd and Brian Rampa, your smart mark source for news and opinions on the world of professional wrestling.
Hey, what is happening? This is episode 43 coming at you live on YouTube. We are hanging out here for all of our audio listeners. You're getting this on the 18th. Or I'm sorry, today is the 18th. You're getting this on the 19th. Friday the 19th. Enjoy your weekend. Have a good one. This is the KayFabe Smark Podcast, episode 43. We're going to be talking about AEW, all things pro wrestling, some news, some underrated, overrated, because I'm loving this little thing. But first, let's clear up some business before we get into all that jazz. Make sure you guys head on over to audibletrials.com/KayFabeSmark. Get a free audiobook, free 30-day trial. Also, make sure to join us on all of our social media platforms. That's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, the KayFabe Smark, and also over on TikTok, the KayFabe Smark. So hang out with us over there, and we're going to talk some wrestling and hang out. But let's kick it over to Mr. Eric Todd and see what is happening in his world.
Oh, same old. Just hanging out with my son today. My son will be turning 18 in July, so we've been putting together some plans for his 18th birthday, and we've settled on skydiving, Brian.
All right, going to go jump out of a perfectly good airplane and see how gravity works.
And for people who know me, they know my biggest fear is heights. I'll ride a roller coaster. I'll go to Cedar Point, Sandusky, Ohio, because I'm buckled in. I've got shoulder straps. I've got big metal bars. Ain't no dying in that. But this whole jumping out of a plane thing, this could be a little sketchy.
Gets me nervous just thinking about it. I might join you.
Me too. Yeah, I don't know. Well, maybe we'll break the world record for most heart attacks in midair.
I mean, it'll either be something that when I'm done, I would say, cool, I did it, check, pop that off the bucket list, or I go and then be done with it, or I'd walk away and go, that's pretty dope. We should try and do that again sometime. I'm thinking it'll be more of the first one.
As cliche as it is, I'm kind of looking at it as YOLO. You only live once. Why not? Why not skydive?
No, Eric, you live every day.
Live, laugh, and love.
All right. Well, I think we're going to discuss AEW and their weekly show this week. Talk about that and but that'll be the meat and potatoes of the show. But do we have any news?
It was a pretty slow news week, but big story. Well, big story for me.
Got to hit the sounder. Got to hit the sweeper. Got to hit the sweeper. I went and put this thing together from around the world. This is the KayFabe Smark and the news. Dum.
In tonight's news, over last weekend, Miro, a.k.a. Rusev, and Jim Cornette got into it a little bit. Jim Cornette, on one of his 2 weekly podcasts, was reviewing an AEW show. It was either Revolution or that weekly show, whatever it was. But either way, I've got the quote from Jim Cornette talking about Miro here. And I quote, "He's being allowed to be himself. He is obviously a complete fucking goof. He has no idea how to get over, no idea what got him over for a little while before in the other company. He does this stupid shit and obviously is enjoying himself doing it. He was paired with a fucking kid that looks like he's in middle school and his slutty girlfriend to have a feud with a guy that sticks his hands in his pockets and another guy that looks like he cuts his hair with a pencil sharpener." I mean, love him or hate him, the motherfucker can cut a promo.
He's fun, yeah. I'm not a hater of Cornette. I'm not a lover of Cornette. I'm right in the fence with him. But man, when he's funny, he's funny. There ain't no taking that away from him.
Now, Miro responded on Twitter, and just to preface this, when Cornette responded to Miro's comments, he felt fantastic. He said he hasn't felt actual heat like this in ages because he can tell that not only Miro is legit mad, Penelope's legit mad, Kip Sabian legit mad, and he's loving it, man. He's loving every second of this.
You know, what I always question about Corny is I know he has a deep, deep passion for pro wrestling. There's no question. No question. He doesn't not sell that to me. But what I don't ever know where to draw the line is what is pro wrestling with Jim Cornette and what is real life. Because it's all kind of one big world, you know what I'm saying? So if people weren't reacting to this Miro and Kip Sabian, especially the people that he's attacking, would he be having so much fun with it? Would he be? Did you see what I'm saying? Would he be sticking and so adamant to this concept?
I think he is just that passionate about pro wrestling. I think he would defend it tooth and nail.
No, I think he'll defend pro wrestling tooth and nail, but I'm saying is like when he attacks Miro, if Miro didn't say anything and get all heated on the internet, would it still be a conversation? You know, or would he just be like, I said it and I moved on? I think he likes to take that older brother thing, especially after they react to his comment. He'll make his statement, and then if you go, "Don't talk about me on the internet," then he'll go, "That's it, motherfucker."
Oh, then he's really digging in. But yeah, there's Miro, obviously a little heated, tweeted to Mr. Jim Cornette, "If you call Penelope slut again, I'll come like God's wrath on you. You understand? I'll personally drive to your basement." Basement in all caps. And then Miro followed up that with, "People like the Jim Cornette bring not only pro wrestling down, but young women and men get abused and name called for 40 views on YouTube."
I think
Jim Cornette's getting a little more than 40 views on this video.
Say, we can get 40 views.
Cornette, which I later found out was supervising some ditch diggers at his residence that were digging a ditch for him. Didn't respond in a timely enough fashion for Miro, so Miro tweeted him again and said, "Answer me, you Mark." Now that's funny. Calling Jim Cornette a Mark.
Yeah,
the guy's a savant historian who's been in the business 40 years, over 40 years. You Mark.
You Mark.
And then Pip Sabian weighed in, pretty much just saying that he can't wait till Jim Cornette dies and he'll celebrate. So I don't think that's being in character. I think Cornette generally got under his skin.
Oh yeah, Jim Cornette generally got under their skin. Now, did you call him Pip Sabian?
Oh, I did slip up. That's what Jim calls Kip Sabian.
It just kind of, if you listened last week, we discussed that there's a whole lot of names for everybody's got part 2 names, so it's a new one now. I just have to remember what you said, Pip Sabian.
All right, and man, I'm spending a lot of time on this, but it's just great. Penelope Ford also chimed in, and she didn't have too much to say other than Jim Cornette has a small dick and that he lets other men fuck his wife because he doesn't have what it takes to do it himself. Which Jim Cornette is very open with the fact that him and his wife are swingers and they like to have fun with other couples and whatnot. To each his own.
Do they put their pineapple on their front porch and tip it upside down if they're busy? I saw that on TikTok, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know how many people are rolling through Louisville, Kentucky, looking to swing with Cornette, but
you're supposed
just
to
look for the pineapple if you happen to be in Kentucky.
If it's upside down, they're busy. I think that's the gimmick.
Now, what makes this even greater is that this happened last weekend. Jim Cornette's web store has been down. He took it down for a while to just take a rest. His wife, who normally helps him, is awaiting back surgery. So his web store has been down for a month or two. This happened to be the weekend that he reopened his web store.
Of course. He's not a silly goose.
And Miro got him trending on Twitter. So he's very thankful for that too.
Yeah, I bet he is. I would be too.
And then Jimmy responded to Miro, and Miro is now known as the Bulgarian Bluto.
Bluto
So,
being the bad guy from Popeye, right?
yeah. So now he's Bluto, the Bulgarian Bluto. And I quote Cornette's response. Miro said, if you call Penelope slut again, I'll come like God's wrath on you. That sounds vaguely sexual. Has he been making some of them Lars Sullivan videos? What is this? God damn. Anyway, he wants to come like God's wrath on me. He said I will personally drive to your basement. Is he saying that he's homeless and if I give him a room in my basement, he'll come here at his own expense? No, of course not. He's threatening me with violence and sexual assault, depending on what coming like God's wrath means. So taking some shots at Miro's broken English there.
For one, he sticks with it. He's not scared because I think the odds of him really driving and beating up Jim Cornette are slim to none, for one. And so you got to stick with it. Keep the heat rolling. You got some white hot heat coming in. Stick with it. Have Twitter turn on you, whatever it takes.
Yeah, keep this. I mean, this would be good for Miro too if he stuck with it. But I was watching the responses on Twitter. AEW fans are just jumping all over Cornette. But former WWE star Charlie Haas publicly came out and he was on Cornette's side and he tweeted at Miro, "Hey Rusev, see what happens when you open your mouth at Jim Cornette, one of the greatest minds in the business? A, respect your elders. B, you have no say. You let them," I imagine he's talking about WWE, "you let them book you to watch your wife get banged by Lashley. Please." Well deserved with this shit tag match on Dark.
What I think AEW fans, like the AEW hardcore fans, should be so mad about that are taking Miro aside is that Miro's more entertaining on Twitter than he is on their TV show.
By all means, he's a fucking dud on TV.
Yeah, like this character, like, be this guy on TV. All mad, yelling at people, like threatening to drive to their house and eat their children. Like, God, that's entertaining. You know, take who you are and turn it up a notch.
Now, remember, all this just came from in the middle of a rant about Miro. Cornette referred to Penelope Ford as Kip Sabian's slutty girlfriend. That one line that wasn't even about Miro sparked Miro to go off the fucking deep end and threaten to kill people and come all over him like God's wrath.
You gotta be careful with the attacking women these days. You could get that on the internet. He called a woman a slut. He's lucky the whole internet didn't turn on him, so he only got one Bulgarian mad at him, not the whole internet. He could have been cancel cultured.
Yeah, so that was entertaining. I don't even go on Twitter, and I opened up one of my defunct accounts just so I could go through all these tweets and read the responses. It was a great day. I was highly entertained.
It was a hoot.
And in other news, and a lot less entertaining news, Andrade, as we reported on last week, asked for his release from WWE. WWE declined, and Meltzer sprinkled a little more information on this subject and reported that WWE denied his request, and it was turned down because, and I quote, "they're not into handing talent to AEW." Now, as I said last week, I don't think AEW was chomping at the bit to hire Andrade, but I don't know. Maybe they wanted to exploit the whole Charlotte Flair thing. I don't know, but
yeah,
I didn't think Andrade was a highly sought after prospect. Did you?
No. And to challenge old Uncle Dave Meltzer, they don't want to just hand over talent to AEW was the quote, right?
Right.
Okay. Christian.
One word. The entire meaning. Christian.
Like, if they were that worried about handing talent over, they would have signed. I bet you they could have made him a deal, even if it wasn't to wrestle. I would have guessed. I mean, maybe not. Maybe he turned down a lot of money to sit on the shelf, but he wanted to go wrestle, and you went over there. I don't know, but I know I got a price. I could be paid to sit on a shelf and make the Ed or the Christian Edge and Christian show or the Christian show on the WWE network and just have a good old time. You don't have to have people hitting me in the head with chairs and throwing over onto tables. Like, hey, cool, easy day at the office.
I don't know. I see the real stretch in this quote is referring to Andrade as talent. Now that's a little that's a little sketchy on my. That's a little pitchy, dog.
It's a little pitchy.
But to each his own. WWE thinks that AEW really wants Andrade. I beg to differ, but who knows?
I beg to differ. We need more people on Dark.
Yeah. Our weekly Peacock news is here, Brian. You can officially watch WWE programming on Peacock starting today. Today being Thursday, the day we film this, March 18th. So WWE did put up a FAQ. I'll read you a couple of them. How do I stream Fastlane? On 3/21, says Fastlane will be available on Peacock and WWE Network in the United States to subscribers of either service. Beginning March 18th, you can subscribe to Peacock to watch WWE Network, including Fastlane. So I'm going to have to check that out either later tonight or maybe tomorrow because I am a Peacock subscriber.
Ooh, fancy pants.
How do I stream WrestleMania on April 10th and 11th? In the United States, WrestleMania will be streamed exclusively through Peacock. Outside the United States, continue streaming through WWE Network and your local provider. And then the last question I'm going to read is, I'm currently a WWE Network subscriber. What should I do? Beginning April 5th, Peacock will be the exclusive streaming home for WWE Network. Until then, you can keep watching directly on WWE Network as long as you have an active subscription. You can also create a Peacock account to stream WWE Network on Peacock beginning March 18th. So the Peacock is here, Brian.
So is it going to just merge you over? Do I have to do anything at any point, or one day will the WWE Network just go away and I'll have a Peacock account, or do I have to go start something? What's going to happen?
That was one of the questions. I just didn't copy and paste. I didn't control V that one. But your WWE subscription will end. They will send you a refund for whatever money if you signed up annually or anything like that. And then you will have to create a Peacock account.
Okay. I was hoping it would just dump me right over and just be done. One day I'd just wake up and have an email and says, here's your Peacock login and password. It'll just be the same one. We just merged them over. But I guess I got to go on the internet.
Yep. You got to
fill out paperwork and shit.
You got to put your name on the Peacock, Brian.
Yes, sir.
That's a wrap with me on news. I saw a ton of stories, but they were all tiddlywink bullshit stories that nobody would really care about. So
one little maybe minor one was announced. Eric Bischoff will be inducted in the WWE Hall of Fame for class of 2021 this year. So,
wow, I missed that one.
Yes,
not gonna lie.
Eric Bischoff will be in the inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2021. Now I was trying to think of who would be the inductor. I guess, right? Who would do the speech before him? Who's going to bring him out and induct him and give him away, if you will? I was trying to think who would that be. Hogan?
Hogan would be a good choice.
I mean, Bischoff was building WCW, and then Hogan came in, and then from there it was strap a rocket up its ass and send it onto the moon.
It was on like Donkey Kong once Hogan hopped over there.
And I mean, it would be cool if Vince did it because, 83 weeks and everything. So you've got that little thing that could happen, but Vince would never do that. So I don't know. I think Hogan's my only guess right now.
Yeah. Maybe Kevin Nash or Scott Hall.
I was thinking one of the outsiders or like the NWO itself. Because didn't they already induct the NWO like a year or two ago of being its own faction? So it was like Hogan, Nash, Hall, and Six, I think, all got inducted in as the NWO. Could have them come out and induct them. Because that's, again, the Rocket doubled up there in the NWO era.
So, yeah, that'll be interesting to watch. Isn't the Hall of Fame ceremony, isn't that going to be another standalone show
I think
this year? I skipped it last year.
Yeah, last year got all jacked up. So I think it's going to go, saw somebody talking about it online last week. So you're going to have Monday Night Raw, and then you'll have Tuesday night that week will be the Hall of Fame will be on a Tuesday. So it'll be Hall of Fame on Tuesday. Wednesday will be night 1 of NXT's TakeOver. Thursday will be night 2 of NXT's TakeOver. Friday will be SmackDown. Saturday will be WrestleMania Part 1. Sunday will be WrestleMania Part 2. Then we're back to Raw on Monday.
Are we going to cover that all in one episode?
That's
we'll record it Sunday night, Brian.
Oh my goodness, that was a heck of it's a heck of a week leading up to that WrestleMania week. There, starting out with Raw that Monday and then ending at Raw on the following Monday. It's going to be a lot of WWE programming going on. So I was thinking that too. I was like, man, how are we going to cover all that?
Well, yeah, we record on Thursdays, so probably.
Well, Thursday would
cover the Hall of Fame.
Thursday
ceremony.
would cover the Hall of Fame, some NXT stuff, and then go from there, and then touch up on the WrestleMania and what wrapped up the week. So, yeah, be a hell of a week. So it's going to be a busy one if that all happens correctly, I guess, and goes down the way that they are predicting it will. So that would mean they're going to have a couple NXT shows, and if NXT was still going to be on Wednesdays or they're making the jump to Tuesdays, that was going to be a possibility, too, of screwing things up of where the NHL needed them to be at that point in time. So we shall see. Well,
yeah, NXT is starting the Tuesday after Mania.
Okay, there you go. So then that first week will be so then it'll go Raw, Hall of Fame, NXT, SmackDown, WrestleMania, Raw, NXT.
And then AEW the next
day. And then AEW on Wednesday. And finally Thursday there ain't no wrestling content on. And then you can jump over and go Friday night for SmackDown again. It's going to be about a busy almost 2 weeks there time you wrap it all up. Well, that's all I had for news, too. So let's we'll hit that little sweeper and get out of the news.
Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun. Oh, almost hit the wrong button there. Don't want to hit the opening music again. Don't want to hit that button. All right, well, because I've had so much fun with it the last 2 weeks, another round of overrated, underrated. This time,
all right,
I'm going to go with overrated, underrated wrestling eras edition. So I'm just going to stick with just WWE because it's just easier. I don't remember WCW even breaking their stuff up into eras. There was shit, decent, shit, and then they closed. Mediocre, shit, decent, amazing, closed for WCW. But we'll go with WWE, the golden years. Underrated or overrated? That would be the years between 82 to 93, a.k.a. your big Hogan years.
I think those are overrated. Maybe because a lot of historians love those years. And I am not too keen on them. I go back and I watch old wrestling from time to time, but man, I'm just not a huge fan of that era. I loved Hogan as a kid, loved Andre as a kid, but we were catching the tail end of Andre. And yeah, I don't know. Things kind of moved too slow. It was pre-Rockers.
Yeah.
I think the Rockers kind of changed the game when they came in.
Yeah, because you're pushing the golden era. It says it's running from 82 to 93. So it's like that the end of that 93 era is when you're starting to dance and go, hey. But those early 82, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's some good things that happened in there, but it was by late 90s or that early 90s, I'm sorry, that you were like, oh.
Even watching a couple of WrestleManias in that era, they're not all barn burners. You got your main event matches, but like pretty much Paul Orndorff, he's very respected in the business, but I'm just kind of like on him. Rick Martel, same thing. very highly respected, just kind of like, junkyard dog. It's I wasn't huge on that era, so I'm gonna say it's overrated.
All right. Overrated, underrated, the new generation era. That's from 93 to 97. That would have been that early Bret Hart singles championship runs, post WrestleMania 9, really, after Hogan dipped out.
Um, is that a really highly regarded era? Do people go nuts over it?
The new generation, that was the turnover, like when Hogan dipped, and then it was all the, quote, young kids were coming in. So that was your Shawn Michaels as your breakout star. That was your Bret Hart as your breakout stars, and separating them from tag teams. And that was like, business was at a real low, and they were putting their money in the young kids, and Hogan, Macho, and, they all jumped to WCW, where it was the Nacho Man.
I'm going to say it's underrated then, because that era, even though the WWE wasn't making a ton of money in that time, these were the building blocks that brought us into the Attitude Era. These are what took us out of the 80s, out of the slow-paced wrist lock, sleeper hold matches, and they were pushing us into a more attitude, higher octane era. So yeah, these were the building blocks, and so I think people need to show them a little more respect.
Yeah, the new generation would have been wrapping up towards the end during the Austin 316 promo, the famous one at King of the Ring. That would have been, so that was very good on the building blocks of that. Well, you led us right into it. Overrated, underrated, the Attitude Era.
I don't think you can overrate the Attitude Era, so I got to stick with underrated. People love it. It's most people's favorite era, I would assume, but to me, the Attitude Era was even bigger than that, because that is what brought the huge amount of mainstream attention to WWE.
Yeah, 100%. That was when everybody was watching it. That was when it was like, you go to school, and in high school it was cool, like you had an Austin 316 shirt on. You weren't like the dorky kid who watched wrestling. It was like, oh yeah, everybody was your friend. Like everybody came out of the woodworks and either admitted they watched it or, jumped in and started watching it. So that was a hell of a time, and I would stick with underrated as well. Let's go with, just going to run down. We got two more that we're going to pop out here. Underrated, overrated, ruthless aggression era, a.k.a. the John Cena era.
I'm going to say it's overrated, man. I still watched wrestling in that era. There was a time I took a little break, but I was watching during that era, and I wasn't feeling Cena. I wasn't all about the positivity. That was around the time where they're stop bullying and all that and whatnot too. So I think that's when wrestling started going back towards kids, family friendly stuff. And yeah, I think I didn't like it. So I'm gonna say it's overrated.
All right. Well, you're leading me from one era to another in the answer of your last one. So, with you stating that it was leading into the families and bringing the kids back into it from the Attitude Era, the last one I got for you from the years of 2008 to 2013, underrated or overrated, the PG era.
Be honest with you, Brian, I was pretty much tuned out during that era. So if people liked it, I'm going to say it was overrated, because I wasn't feeling it.
Yeah, I don't know how it's regarded I'm going to pretty much go it was definitely shat upon, and it was very pushed in your face that it was just, this is for bring the money back in and get some families there and put some butts in seats. They weren't trying to sell 2 tickets to me and you. They were trying to sell 6 tickets to me and your family, and my family and your family. Well, there you go. Underrated, overrated, the Eras edition. I need to make a sweeper for that now too. Done. Some little music. Find some royalty-free shit on the inner tubes.
There's got to be something out there.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go. Underrated, overrated, the Eras edition. Let us know what you think. We'll be posting and clipping that out and snipping it up and sending it out to the social media platforms. Again, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Head on over, subscribe, like, share, join. Let's have some fun. And now I think we're going to discuss AEW and the show that was last night.
Yes, the AEW St. Patrick's Day Slam. Every episode's got to have a fucking name, doesn't it, Brian?
Everything's got to have a name.
Now, before we kick things off here, I got a quick question for you. We'll talk about the match later tonight as it happened later in the night, but I'm asking your opinion here. If you had to rewatch one of these two matches that I'm going to give you right here, if you had to rewatch it again, which one would you rather watch over? The Kenny Omega, John Moxley exploding ring death match, or Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa lights out match?
Last night, when I heard it was a lights out match, I was like, that gimmick to me is just so cheesed that they're like, we turn the lights off and turn them back on, and now it doesn't exist, and it's so played out. These ladies tore the house down for an unsanctioned, no rules match.
Don't give them too much, Rampa. Don't give them too much. Just which one would you rather watch?
The ladies.
Main event of Revolution.
Ladies.
Main event of AEW.
Main event of their free show.
Same.
What? Yeah. We'll
So,
get
yeah,
to it.
We'll get into it later. But yeah, that's a nice little teaser right there. The main event of AEW Dynamite on St. Patrick's Day was better, and not just because of the dud of the non-explosion there, just the match itself was better than the main event of their $50 record-breaking pay-per-view event that happened on Sunday.
It was bananas.
Yeah. As Pat Patterson say, the people would go banana, and the people did go banana.
The people did go banana. A pre-recorded Wednesday night St. Patrick's Day Slam.
To which Shivani says, everybody's wearing green. And JR says, it's St. Patrick's Day.
Well, it was a week early, so what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Old
Shivani was confused.
Skiavone got confused. All right.
But let's start this off in a chronological fashion.
Please.
Here. Once again, the AEW St. Patrick's Day Slam, March 17th in Jacksonville, Florida. MJF and company, his new faction, still at this point unnamed.
Now, the internet has picked up on the name Pinnacle, as he had said, we are the Pinnacle, and stating that was going to be the name. Now, I'm still with you. It wasn't official, but he pointed and said, we are the Pinnacle, and they kind of left it at that.
Yeah, later on in the show, there was a solidifying factor to lead us to believe that they are indeed the Pinnacle.
Yeah, but it still hasn't been stamped in.
Yeah. At the beginning of the episode, from what I saw, it was just MJF and his new faction, still unnamed at that point, just getting off their private jet. They didn't say Pinnacle at
No, they didn't say Pinnacle there. No, I jumped ahead. I'm sorry. That was my fault.
Yeah, so that's that. You've just got them, and this new group is there, and you're wondering what's going on, and they've got camaraderie, and right from there, we go into our first match of the night, and it's finally not the Young Bucks in the opening match. We have Penta El Cerro Dinero versus Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, say we don't have the Young Bucks in the opening match. We have Cody.
Right. It's got to be one or the other. We get a pre-taped promo from Penta, which he cuts in Spanish, and his translator translates to, he says he will break Cody's arm, so he'll have trouble holding his baby, or something to that effect. And I know Penta doesn't speak fantastic English. I've seen some of his YouTube videos of him just hanging out, but I don't know. The whole translator thing on cutting a promo, kind of lost it for me. I didn't really feel any emotion because it's a stupid translator cutting the promo, not him.
Yeah, it started last week when he was doing some Spanish commentary, Penta was, or at least in the storyline. I don't know if he really does that. And Cody was out there and talking about his match and his ladder match and blah, blah, blah. And then Penta starts cutting a promo on him, and he grabs the commentator, and he's blah, 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 and then having the guy translate it for him. And it was getting lost in translation for me there, too, because this guy's not selling it with any emotion for me. He's just a guy. He's a commentator, that we've never met. So he's the Spanish commentator. At least in WWE, they would break the Spanish commentator booth at least 2 to 3 times a month. Like, it would go down.
Right.
So you got to know the guys that were sitting there, but I didn't even know they had a Spanish commentary booth that they set up.
Me neither.
So
and now they're broadcasting in Africa as well, as JR said. So greetings and happy St. Patrick's Day to TNT Africa.
Well, there you go. Spreading over, taking over the world.
Right.
So I'm with you that the pre-recorded promos and the promos with this guy are what we call a waste.
Yeah. They I think they'll eventually just get lost in the sauce. But so we are fed that this rivalry, because to me it seemed to come out of really left field, the whole Penta Cerro de Nero rivalry here. They're selling it to us that it started at the ladder match.
Yeah, because he's the one that mollywopped Cody and hurt his shoulder. Like, started the shoulder pain when he was climbing up the ladder. He was climbing up the ladder. Penta waffles him with it in the shoulder, and now he's mad at him.
It's a ladder match with like 6 participants. How are you going to take something personal like that and start a feud over a 6-man ladder match?
You got hit in a match? How dare you hit me in a match? Now we're gonna.
Now we're in a feud. So I don't know. That's another thing that just kind of like they pull rivalries and storylines. Them being AEW, Tony Khan and company, seem to pull rival or feuds out of their ass. It was just, I don't see any reason for these two to be feuding. They just needed somebody entertaining for Cody to work with, I imagine.
Well, because I think Cody was supposedly they're selling it as he was close to climbing and reaching that brass ring that he could just never reach. Cody can never get that brass ring, can he? Even in his own company. He left a company because he couldn't reach the invisible brass ring, and now he's got a literal one above his head. And some guy dressed up like a skeleton doesn't let him reach it.
Yeah, so anyway, yeah, now that's the rivalry. Apparently Penta is taking it more personal than Cody, because he jumps Cody before Cody even gets to the ring, just drills him by jumping over the ropes, and then we are just in a bloody, well, not bloody, but just a straight up brawl outside of the ring. Penta is going after Cody's legs and shoulders and just kicking the shit out of him. Cody's whipping Penta into guardrails and whatnot. This is everything's got to be a gimmick. We got to go into a hardcore match. We can't even start with a normal match.
Yeah, at least started out hardcore, right? And then slowly comes back around. But I always hate when they start out like that in a match. I guess it's just continuity for me. So they either will when they don't let it go, right? So sometimes in an AEW match, I'm trying to get my thoughts together here, you have them, the referees, they got to send out 42 trainers, and they got to separate everybody, because the last thing we want on a wrestling show is people wrestling. Remember, how many times have they done that gimmick where they send out all the AEW Dark to go dressed up in security outfits to keep people separated, and they won't let them fight? And then this match, Penta clearly breaks the rules, and is clearly breaking the rules. And then as soon as they're both in the ring, ring the bell. Match is on. Like, they don't separate them to corners or anything. So it's like all they had to do is have 2 guys in the ring. Ding, 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 ding. We're off to the races. Like,
and we get that revisited later on in the show, which we'll end up touching on. So yeah, the starts to these matches are a little funky, to say the least. Now, we start off in a complete shit show, and once we're in the ring, once this match starts, things get a little better. You've got 2 conflicting styles here. You got Cody, a more traditional, We're not talking NWA Midnight Express traditional, but Cody has a more traditional style compared to the indie style of most of the AEW talent. And Penta is straight up luchador. And so you're automatically assuming it's going to be a styles clash, but these guys are complementing each other. They're working well together. It's not ridiculous on either side of the fence here.
I think that's because you got I bust Cody in when I'm on the podcast here, but honestly, I respect him in the ring. I think he's great. I think some of his ideas are a little wacky, but as a wrestler, he's a professional. Penta, clearly showing he's a professional, and you put professionals in the ring, and everybody gets to shine. They get to have their moment. It doesn't, you're not out there fighting and stealing for your. This wasn't treated like an indie match. Finally, is basically the idea that I'm trying to spit out. They knew they were going to get their little 8 minutes in the match, and then they each got their little to prove what they could do, and then they moved on, knowing that they get to fight again next week. But we still get a lot of AEW carries on like an independent match, where you don't know when your next match is going to be. So put it all on the line, let's do the most death-defying stunt on a Wednesday opening match, while they're at commercial and you're in picture-in-picture. You're going, why didn't you save that for when the TV was live? Why are you jumping off of, a 40-foot fire truck on fire on a picture-in-picture while Olive Garden's the main focus of the TV?
Yeah, and this match, so we're all over the place. So we start off with a barroom brawl, basically. We get in the ring, and we've got a more traditional style where they're in the ring, they're selling, their psychology, and then we come full circle, and we're back to the indie style AEW stuff that we're known for here. Cody decides he's going to do a tope on Penta. Well, Cody starts on the side of the ring with Penta, runs all the way across the ring, bounces off the ropes, has to run all the way back across the ring. Meanwhile, Penta is just having to stand there with his thumb up his ass, standing in front of the propped up guardrail from earlier in the night, and takes a tope suicida from Cody so that he can bump onto a guardrail. So that was example A of just, we got to sprinkle that indie bullshit in.
Yeah, that's where it gets a little lost. Some of the timing, and the funny thing is, this was a tape show. You can really just quick edits and make this thing kind of look the way you want it to.
And most of the fans in the audience are AEW affiliates, whether it's family, friends, talent. So if they wanted to retape something or do a take two to make it not look so shitty, they could do that. But then we turn the notch on the indie bullshit show right here, because Cody gives Penta a Canadian destroyer.
And if you watched last week on our show, we rated the Canadian destroyer as overrated.
Yes. So Cody gives Penta the Canadian destroyer. Penta immediately has to no-sell said Canadian destroyer because he has to get up and get into position for a Cody cutter. Now, that's where it's lost on me.
And then, not only that, he hits the Cody cutter, and if I remember correctly, kicks out of a pin immediately following that.
Yes. Canadian destroyer, Penta no-sells it, Cody cutter, 2 count. Immediately after that, Crossroads, 2 count. Immediately after that, backpack drop, 2 count. So
you can't kill Penta. He has zero fear.
Terminado Cerro De Niro is now his name.
Oh boy. Yeah, those Pentas, you can't kill a skeleton. He is.
So you got Canadian Destroyer. You got, what was that again there? Cody Cutter, Crossroads, backpack drop. Then Cody, that still wasn't enough, slams Penta's knee into the ring post, puts him in a figure 4. Penta grabs the rope, and he's immediately out of the figure 4. And then how does Cody win this match, Brian? He's done 13 devastating finishing moves in a row and gets 2 counts. And then how does Cody get the 1, 2, 3 in this one, Brian?
Just a quick roll up.
A quick roll up. I was that
After
right then and there.
And after Penta had hit a pretty devastating move on him.
Yeah, I forget what that move was because in the middle of fucking Cody's fiasco here, Penta did slip a devastating move in there.
And then after that, like Penta celebrated for half a second, Cody rolled him up.
And that was the end of this match. You honestly, on a low end, had 6 finishing moves from Cody Rhodes, and he wins with a roll up. Now, I don't understand how people would defend this in a logical manner. I get it. Wrestling's evolving. You have a quicker style, but where in the world does it make sense to any wrestling fan to hit 6 finishing moves and win with a roll up? It's almost like it was booked just to throw you off, which...
Right. If you go back to listen to when we watched SummerSlam back in our archives, I loved the fact that Drew McIntyre won with a backslide.
Right.
Because no finishing moves were hit. So many of them were teased. He kept going for his Claymore kick and kept missing, not connecting with it. It wasn't happening. It wasn't going down. And then he wins with a quick backslide. That was SummerSlam, right? Nonetheless, I think it was.
Yeah.
When he won was at that. So that was. I liked that. So now when it similarly happens over here on AEW, you got to remember though what happened in front of it to make it not make sense. And what exactly you said was he hit him like with 37 moves that he's won other matches with.
Right.
And so it didn't make sense.
And then he wins with a fucking roll up.
After receiving a devastating move. So he sold the devastating move to win with like a sunset flip roll up.
So this match just had me all over the place. First it's a brawl, then it's a good match, and then it's like, let's get our shit in. And then it's just complete chaos and doesn't make any sense. Penta, obviously not happy with taking this L, immediately jumps Cody. Cody is then saved by Dustin Rhodes in the Gun Club. And this happened. Cody Rhodes in the Dustin Rhodes in the Gun Club saved Cody just so QT could wander in about a minute late, and then we could just raise the tension on the Nightmare Family and QT Marshall.
Well, let's not forget, Arn Anderson got in the ring and stood there awkwardly in the corner and did nothing as well. So why he wasn't mad at Arn Anderson for not helping him, we'll never know. Because Arn Anderson just climbed in the ropes and stared at Penta beating up and beating that shoulder of Cody's. Didn't do anything, didn't attempt anything. Then Dustin comes in. Now then the Gun Club jumps in. Now mind you though, the Gun Club is ringside. If you're looking at your TV, they're always in that right corner, right there by the timekeeper's table. So, where were they? So all this, we're going to be mad at QT Marshall for coming out a minute late, but, the guys in the front row were pretty slow to react, and your head coach over there, Arn Anderson, just awkwardly stood there and stared at you getting beat up, waiting. So it's just funny to me that they pick all that to pick on with QT Marshall.
Yeah, so this is probably one of my biggest gripes with AEW is because the potential is there, and you see point A where they are and point B where they want to be, but they never take the most logical route. They got to go around fucking Albuquerque and through Birmingham, Alabama, and then back up to Washington, D.C. and stop off in Tacoma, Washington, all to get back to Chicago, Illinois. It is just nothing is in a logical manner here. It just...
Well, that, and then two, it still sticks with logical, but the second layer to this logical story is anybody brokenhearted that QT Marshall is going to leave the Nightmare Family or teasing it.
After he walked off at Revolution,
Was
I
your
think
heart
I forgot about him before he was off the screen.
was your heart broken?
Shattered.
Shattered
Uh,
dreams.
like I said back on that podcast where we reviewed Revolution, yeah, the only thing I could think of was, maybe he'll go get back with Bunny. I couldn't care less that he was leaving the Nightmare family. It was just kind of like, oh well.
Now, you want to pick somebody to leave the Nightmare family that would make sense that you might give a damn about, like Dustin
Of course.
is about the only person, right? Or have QT Marshall team with the gun club and kind of try to drive a wedge in there to take the young kids that Cody's never going to let the young kids and let us come up, right? Similar
Right.
like they, with MJF and such. So, just an idea. I had to get that out of my melon.
Speaking of more Nightmare family members that didn't help Cody, where's that one fella they just signed? AEW just signed.
Oh yeah, I forget his name, but yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, where was he at? He's fighting over on Dark. They were recording Dark.
Yeah, they must have had it on the other side of Daly's place. So he was busy that night, and Cody's not going to cut a promo on him.
At least QT Marshall came out. The other fella is just sleeping in the back.
Yeah. So yeah, there's some tension going on in the Nightmare family, and yeah, who cares? Because who cares, Brian? Because we get our first dose of Alex Marvez, and he is with the Young Bucks backstage.
Marvez. Love some Marvez.
Now, old Buck Hogan just immediately comes in hot, and he's cutting a promo on Ray Phoenix, and Don Callis comes in and interrupts Buck Hogan's little promo there. Callis making light of the recent WWE story of them cracking down on leg slapping by presenting the Bucks with a T-shirt in honor of their father getting hurt. It was just shoehorned in so that they could show this shirt.
All they should have done was just handed him the shirt.
Right.
The shirt was great and hilarious and should have made TV. But to be like, because your dad got hurt 2 weeks ago and you didn't go see him in the hospital.
Yeah, here's one T-shirt for you. But nonetheless, the star of this segment was the T-shirt, which I had to rewind and pause so that I could get a good shot at it, which was a shame. That T-shirt should have had at least 5 seconds of airtime.
As did I. I rewound it 15 seconds back and pause. Oh my God, that's funny.
But just to recap on this, WWE, in case you missed it, is cracking down on leg slapping all the way to the point where they have a sign up at Gorilla that says, "Do not slap your leg when you kick." Don Callis presents the Bucks with a T-shirt with a big red circle with a line through it that says, "Do not slap leg when kicking." And I thought that was great.
I thought it was hilarious too. I loved it. I want one. Can I get one of those at AEWshop.com?
Maybe it's over on the Impact store on Etsy. Maybe they're over at Cafe Press or something like that.
Etsy.com/Impact Wrestling.
Yeah, so Don Callis takes over the segment with that little joke there and says that Kenny Omega no longer recognizes the Bucks anymore because they're no longer elite as a tag team. They are just the old, just they're lazy old Bucks that don't matter anymore. No fire in their soul.
They're not the Bucks from New Japan. We've said New Japan on American TV. Dun, dun, dun. The invisible door and the invisible hand and whatever. Now, I mean,
the invisible who gives a shit.
And I do give it to Don Callis in this comment that they're creating, and I know blah, 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 that they're not the Bucks then. They're the Bucks of now. There was an evolution to the Bucks, but I think what made the Bucks and what made people fall in love with them was what they saw from New Japan, Ring of Honor, and through the indie scene. And I know Eric beats him up on here for being indie mud show bullshit, as he likes to say, but it's not the same attitude It might be the same wrestling, but it's not the same attitude. It's different. So I agree that they're bringing that. So maybe they're going to shake something loose and spice up the Bucks a little bit. Or they're going to forget about it and not comment on it again for 3 weeks. Hopefully that you remember.
I'm going to go with the latter. They're just going to forget about it. I just wish they would figure out if they're baby faces or heels. They changed that shit. Like, it seems like every other week it's they're baby faces, they're heels. No, they're baby faces. No, they're best friends with the Good Brothers. Now the Good Brothers don't like them. Now they're not doing the Wolfpack sign. Like, what the fuck?
I think they're having a hard time with no fans. I think they're trying to be and let something happen back like the Attitude Era. Stone Cold, a la Stone Cold Steve Austin. Was he a good guy? Was he a bad guy? What was he supposed to be? The crowd loved him. They sold a lot of T-shirts. Nobody really gave a shit.
Right. Well, that's what they're going for, but they're just confusing everybody.
With no fans, it's hard. They need to tell somebody what's happening. So we continue on.
We continue on to Jade Cargill's enhancement match here. Jade Cargill is going up against Danny Jordan. And this is a 3-move match. We get a knee strike that looked pretty badass. We get a release German suplex, which about broke old Danny Jordan's neck. I don't know, Brian. If you're a 130-pound, 140-pound girl, are you trusting a girl as green as Jade Cargill to release German suplex you?
I don't know if I can trust anybody to release German suplex me. He seems scary as a motherfucker. But poor Danny Jordan. I mean, she should have just wore a white singlet and then just said wrestler on it.
Right. They shouldn't even said her name.
She was No Frills McGillicuddy, wasn't she? That should have been her name. Danny No Frills McGillicuddy. Like, who gives a shit? I mean, she just got treated like a bag of shit, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's all she was going to get.
I don't remember if it was AEW or NXT a couple months ago where they didn't even bother saying the enhancement talent's name. And
it was AEW.
If I was Danny Jordan, I'd be embarrassed to have my name on the TV screen after that. She didn't even get a offensive look, let alone an offensive move. Cargill just ripped her to shreds. We get a finishing move that I believe is called the Jaded, and that was a wrap on that. 10 seconds, 3 moves, Cargill gets the dub.
Best case scenario that they did for this was keep it short. Have her go out, do her things that are tight, if you will. You know, those release Germans, knee strikes, hit your finishing move, flex, and move on. It's short, but people remember that you went out and dominated. And that's what you get. So you didn't get a lot of time, which people always want time, right? I need time in the ring. Give me my time to get my shit in. Give me my time. Well, she doesn't have shit yet. So she just needs to come in and be, if you will, the Bill Goldberg in the beginning of his career, right? Come out, spear, jackhammer, move on. Not saying she's going to be that, but I'm saying is you're just going to remember big, powerful, quick moves. You can build from that eventually.
Right. And by all means, I wasn't looking for a Peter Avalon, Cody Rhodes type enhancement match where it's 50-50 and it takes 10 to 15 minutes to get by. But pretty much this thing was just over in a blink of an eye. Danny Jordan didn't even register as a human being. She just looked like a bag of flesh being thrown around by Jade Cargill, and then that was a wrap.
They should have used some of that time that they had from not letting them wrestle in the ring to possibly, and I know she sucks, talk on the mic. She should have taunted somebody afterwards.
Right. But anyway, we get a little heat. The real reason for this enhancement match is to get more heat between old Jade Cargill and Red Velvet here. Cargill gets out, and you can't hear her voice, but you can read her lips as plain as day. Cause Red Velvet a bitch right to her face. And Velvet erupts, and so yeah, that feud is what they're building on for old Cargill at this point.
Well, that's what you got to do. Is what you got to do. I mean, they got to have somebody to keep fighting on, and might as well slap those two together.
Yeah, and move on to there. We've got MJF coming out with his crew. They're all looking prim and proper, all wearing nice suits and tailored outfits here, nicely fitted shirts. And Tully Blanchard is the first to cut a promo, and Tully can cut a hell of a promo. He lets it go on the inner circle here, and I am thoroughly enjoying him on the stick.
Well, I mean, classic wrestling mind in the business for the last, 110 years. And
I think you wrestled Abraham Lincoln back in the day.
yeah, original NWA champion there. But yeah, I think this faction's going to be pretty cool. I know I've seen some things online and people chatting about it, some chatter. Another faction. But I've always been a faction guy.
I enjoy factions.
In the defense that everybody wants to take and say that they're just trying to be that it's just like a knockoff, WWE or, whatever. WWE's not doing factions, really. They've got the Hurt Business, and that's about it.
Yeah, I was say I can't, off the top of my head, can't think of any other.
But remember, at one
factions
point, it was like, remember during Attitude Era, right? That's all it was.
Right.
It was your DX, and it was your ministry, and it was the corporation, and it was the right to censor, and then it was the corporate ministry, and then it was whatever else. So they're not doing that. So in the defense of AEW, they are sticking and doing something that's not being done. Granted, it's been done, but there's really a lot that, it's hard to find something that's brand new.
Right. So, yeah, it is Faction City over in AEW, but, yeah, it hasn't killed it for me yet, though. The factions all seem to make sense for the most part at this point. But Tully cuts his promo on the inner circle. MJF gets on the mic, and that's where this segment really starts to shine. MJF, the king of fucking letting me go and reeling me right back in. He's got me like a puppet on the strings.
You were so mad at him a couple weeks ago, the last couple months. And when I can only imagine that your head hit your ceiling in the promo when he called, Jericho, I stuck with you through all this, through that, and through your comedy bullshit.
Yes, that was the line that did it. MJF back to his roots, back to the heel that we know he is, and he is taking shots at Jericho's weight, saying he could do a little more walking, taking shots at Jericho's hairline, talking about starting way back or some shit like that, and talking about Jericho's spaced out pectoral muscles.
And I know Eric very well.
I've always thought they looked a little funky, but I could never put my finger on it.
I know Eric very well, and I knew that he was going to pop for that last one. Too many chops from the Big Show for Jericho. It separated his pecs or something. So here's my question I pose to you, Eric.
Yes.
Is AEW and the writers behind this playing the long game of chess, or did they get lucky? Meaning, he's reaching back stating that he hated everything that he did with Jericho. He had to pretend to be his friend. He had to do his stupid comedy bullshit. He had to everything that we hated, right? We hated the comedy bullshit. We hated him, MJF, not being MJF. We hated everything about it. Do you think they stumbled, even a blind squirrel finds a nut and they stumbled upon this? Or do you think they were going, we're going to do this dance thing? The internet will probably hate it. They liked it. We'll do this. You know what I'm saying? And then in a couple months, swerve! MJF's still an asshole, and he's starting his own faction.
This wasn't planned. This flying by the seat of their pants. And partially the reason I say that is it was publicly stated by Jericho that the Denner Debonair dance routine was MJF's idea.
Yeah, but we got to keep in mind though that it might have been MJF. I'm saying, so you got to separate between reality and real here, or reality and wrestling. So in reality, it might have been MJF's idea, but were they playing a long con on us in the storytelling?
Do you think the way they played out where MJF was in storyline behind the scenes planning on fucking Jericho over the entire time and starting his own faction? I still don't think so. I think this was going by the seat of their pants. I think they toyed around with the idea of Jericho just turning babyface and MJF taking over. But I think since everyone kind of figured that out, I think this was a last minute swerve and it just happened to strike gold.
Huh. I'm probably leaning more towards your side. You want to think that they are having genius wrestling minds and they're booking it out backwards, right? So what we're going to do is this. Now we got to get there like this. Like stories of Vince. Kevin Nash told a story one time on a shoot interview or something where Vince would come to him and say, "You're going to main event WrestleMania next year." Okay? So at WrestleMania 12, it's you, whatever, 11. And he's going to work, but how do we get there? Well, we got to work backwards. So at this, all the way back to, at SummerSlam, they got to work it backwards. So you want to think those genius minds laying it all out on little index cards and matches at different pay-per-views all over, but I'm with you. I think AEW just said, let's try this. It's kind of working. It's not. People like it, but they don't. MJF isn't really this guy. He's more of a leader. Let's try this.
Right. I personally think booking backwards is the way to go, but I think Tony Khan is taking the other approach. I think he
books on Tuesdays.
He kind of judges what happens on Wednesdays, and then on Thursday he's like, all right, let's get started writing on what happened on Wednesday. So yeah, I think he may have some idea of what he wants to happen, but by no means is this thing written out a year or even months in advance, a couple weeks tops.
I agree. Unfortunately, because it just leaves me little hope that they can continue to strike gold.
And this is where MJF teases in and kind of plants the seed that this faction is now known as the Pinnacle. And then that gets solidified a little later on in the show.
Yeah, decent name. I am glad and not that they didn't go with the Four Horsemen. For one, there's more than four of them, and we're not even counting Tully because, Wardlow does wrestle. So that makes it a little weird there. And then the Four Horsemen thing's just kind of should just be left for what it was and where it's at and just remembered by the glory that it is. Plus, I don't know if WWE owns it.
And just to follow history, what happens when you have a new anything? So you got the new Rockers were Al Snow and Marty Jannetty.
The new Midnight Express, wasn't that Bob Holly and I forget the other guy now.
But you had the new Blackjacks with God, I don't even remember who was in the new Blackjack.
One of them. I think JBL was one of them.
Yeah. So yeah,
they all sucked.
It's almost a curse to just try and put together a new version of a classic team.
Right. I mean, even WWE never rehashed it open with Evolution, and that was the Four Horsemen in WWE.
Yeah, even they didn't want to take the chance and call this thing the new Four Horsemen. But yeah, that's that on the basically the promo of the night. MJF just murdered it. Tully just murdered it, and that was fantastic. And then we just go into our indie bullshit match of the night. Here we got a 10-man tag team match, Brian. We've got Jurassic Express, including the Glizzy Gobbler, excuse me, alongside Bear Country, which you and I let our opinions be known on Bear Country last week. And they are taking on Money Matt Hardy, Butcher and the Blade, and Private Party.
Yeah. Butcher and the Blade made the jump to Matt Hardy's crew in that faction. We got that thing going on. Because, and at least they tried to fill in the blank there of why they jumped, because they were done with messing around with Eddie Kingston because he's went back to his old buddy John Moxley. So they've went and signed a contract with Money Matt Hardy to go in that group now. These poor bastards just can't find a home. And they're decent, too. They're good.
They're good performers. They're good wrestlers. I was a fan of them from the beginning. They made their debut, and then especially they had one match against FTR, and that thing was fantastic. One of the best actual wrestling matches I've seen on AEW.
Yeah, they're good. They got the small guy, the big guy, powerhouse, quick, all that stuff. They work well. They actually tag. They look like a team. The Butcher can't figure out he wants to be a genie or a Dutch painter boy, but nonetheless, God bless him. He'll figure it out one day. And then they keep trying to stick him in factions. Just be a tag team. So I just defended that they have factions is a good thing, but not everybody needs to be in one.
Yeah, I don't know. As wrestlers, I think they're great. I think their gimmicks a little It's like the Butcher and the Blade. He wears a fucking monocle. He's supposed to be a 1890s scientist or something. I don't know. I don't see too many butchers at Costco with a monocle in their eye and a top hat.
The Butcher's he's in real life. He's in some hardcore like punk thrash band. He's like a bass player.
Yeah. All right. I don't know. Go with that gimmick. Be the new Headbangers. But we've got Matt Hardy and Marco Stunt starting off this match, and Hardy is selling for Marco Stunt. So you already know right off the bat this is going to be a fantastic match. You got Hardy selling for Marco Stunt, and then Stunt does something stupid, and we end up having all 10 people who are in this match in the ring almost immediately. And who's our referee of the night, Brian? It is none other than Rick Knox.
Oh, it was Rick Knox?
Yeah, I didn't want you to hit the Paul Turner
Damn
button.
it, I was going to find my Paul Turner button. Knox is not as bad, but Paul Turner doesn't look like he knows what's going on. So here's the difference between them. Paul Turner doesn't know what's happening. He doesn't know what a referee does. He just is there. Rick Knox just doesn't do it. Just doesn't enforce anything.
Just doesn't give a shit. Yeah.
Paul Turner's like your sleepy grandma that comes over to babysit you and just let you run wild while you're tearing the house apart.
So yeah, Rick Knox is just all 10 people are in the ring, and he could give a shit less. He's just sitting back and watching patiently. He's just enjoying the show.
Yeah, why not? He's got the best seat in the house.
I didn't take too many notes on this. At one point, Dushasaurus gets in there and he's cleaning house, so they get that point across that they're trying to make Dushasaurus a powerhouse.
The big thing that I was taking away from this was the rift and the potential feud that they're driving towards. Now this is AEW because all this could be erased in the stroke of a key. That change of plans. The rift between Jungle Express or Lucha Express and the Bear Country. That they weren't melding as a team. So it just shows, just to me, I saw that they're going to, so they're on a team now, and then they kept, getting in the way, and the way that they handled Marco Stunt when they threw him, when one of the big guys, Bronson, fucking just yeeted Marco Stunt out of the ring and about killed the poor bastard. So then Jungle Boy was mad about that. And then something else happened, and then he got kicked in the face, and then they were all mad at each other, and they were going to fight. And Marco Stunt had to scream and yell, and he tagged himself in and took over in the match again. So that's all I got from the match. I know it seems like a lot for this shitty match, but that's what I picked up on. And Money Matt Hardy did the same thing of driving that he has to get the pin.
All right. So, yeah, that eye blink must have been a little longer than I thought, because I thought I just blinked my eye for a long, I just thought I took a really long eye blink just to kind of re-wet my eyes and whatnot. But, yeah, basically when I reopened them, Marco Stunt was just singled out in the ring, and then he took a gin and juice and a twist of fate. And then that was a wrap on that.
You got to go back and rewatch and pay attention to when Bronson does throw him out of the ring, though. I think it's Bronson. I think it's his name. What Bear Country boy? One of the two. He throws.
name's Bronson because isn't there a fat guy named Bronson over in NXT?
I think so. He throws that poor bastard. Like hey, you know that how they Luchasaurus will throw him and stuff? Well, he
Right.
won a Bear Country throw him and about missed the guys and threw him over the guardrail. I mean, they caught him so he didn't die. We almost lost Marco Stunt. This was almost a memorial show to Marco Stunt.
Yeah, I ain't gonna front. I'd be pretty pumped about that in memoriam. I'd put up with that in memoriam show. So yeah, that's two AEW things I got to go back and watch. I got to watch Bronson Bear Country launch Marco Stunt, and then I got to go back 2 weeks, and I got to watch the Maki Ito singing disaster from 2 weeks ago.
Oof.
That was another thing I fast forwarded through.
Oh my.
And man, the podcasts were eating that up. Just not even shitting on it. It was just one of those. It was so bizarre.
Oh,
it was just entertaining.
Beyond bizarre as she kept singing while they were fighting.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to go back and watch the Maki Ito thing.
And I think it's gonna be trying to be part of her gimmick now. Like this whole
Great.
Yeah, bad singing shit.
So yeah, Marco takes the 1, 2, 3. And then Jurassic Express takes the L. And then we are in the back in whatever weird room we're in this time with John Moxley and Eddie Kingston. And fuck the atmosphere because it's all about the promo on this one. Mox is going off on the Good Brothers. He's taking inside shots. Yeah, he is. And Eddie Kingston, Brian, all he's doing is taping his wrists and taping his fingers and nodding. But Kingston, just in those very subtle movements and his body language, it is bringing John Moxley's promo up a notch. I don't know how he does it. Kingston is the fucking king of psychology and body language.
He's amazing. When they kept teasing the too sweet, like they didn't know how to do it, and they're like doing like the worst. If you're not watching the video, pop onto YouTube and fast forward out here. We're at about an hour 20, but just like they're doing like the worst too sweet. It's more of like the Beavis and Butthead like metal fingers is what they're doing. Like, but they're not getting it right. And they're like, "Don't you remember seeing that back in like 1996? Wasn't that cool then?" Like,
yeah, I think that was on TNT. Yeah,
like 15 years ago, 20 years ago. They're shitting all over it. That was hilarious. And then when Eddie Kingston, then he quotes Tupac in the thing. He quotes 50 Cent.
Yeah. Yeah, Eddie Kingston, man, he's just taking it old school gangster there, and it's just I'm going back to him taping his wrist. He says more saying nothing than most of this roster says with 10 minutes on the mic.
Because I just watched him. I was watching him tape his wrist.
And he's just, yeah, his body language is just bam. It speaks volumes.
You ain't never bought nothing. You ain't never popped nothing. How to quote Tupac.
Yeah.
He quotes Wanksta first.
Yeah, and then to quote Tupac, he says, "A coward dies 1,000 deaths. Guys like me and Mox, soldiers, we only die but once."
Soldiers? I just want to go hang out with them.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a dope ass promo. Between the Tully Blanchard MJF promo, this one, and then Don Callis cutting off the Bucks. It's like, man, the talking on the show was great. The wrestling wasn't all there.
But shit, you can hide some of the bad wrestling over good talking.
So yeah, after our Kingston Mox promo, which gets us hyped up for that rivalry, and that match coming up later on, we've got Dasha in the back. No more Marvez. We've got Dasha in the back with Christian Cage, and she's got one question for Christian: what brought you to AEW?
To outwork everybody. I'm the workhorse of the locker room.
He's not a workhorse. He is the workhorse. And he is here. He feels he may have ruffled some feathers. People think he's there to take their spot, but there's only one spot he's after, and that is Kenny Omega's spot, the AEW champion.
I mean, but don't records matter in AEW? Isn't this a sports-based promotion?
And so that I was kind of in the middle on this one because Christian does touch on that. He goes, I understand. I got to go through. I got to prove myself. I got to get some wins to get up to challenge Kenny Omega. But then on the other side of the coin, it's like, dude, you're fucking Christian. You should be able to walk into a title shot.
Yeah, any corporate, any federation, any wrestling company, come over and just go over to Impact.
Right. But making him prove himself, so to speak, and actually get a winning record, it's a way to help drag on the rivalry. I think you could get a few months out of a Christian Cage Kenny Omega feud.
Yeah, especially if they do the old school never get his hands on him type thing, where Kenny won't give him the time of day. Christian has to come out and he's fighting some jobbers or some mid card guys and working his way around, and he won't. He keeps challenging Kenny. Kenny, let me get a match. Who are you? Keeps playing that elitist type Kenny that he is right now. Who are you? Oh, he's some schmuck from up north.
I don't know. I'm calling it, Brian. I'm saying the Christian Cage Kenny Omega feud, which hasn't even started yet, will be over by the next pay-per-view.
Damn you, Eric. They could make it so sweet. They could just tease it along.
But this thing will be done.
Well, I think it's in May. It's over Labor Day. So you got a month and a half.
Sounds about right.
Sounds about right. Heck, they could change it by then, and he could be challenging for the... He's a tag team now.
Yeah. So, we get what... That was, if I recall correctly, that was Christian's first time talking on AEW television, was it not?
Yeah, and that's another thing that kind of bugged me, is because he hasn't said anything really yet. Right? Just a lot of pointing, signing, grabbing titles, handing them over. And then he talks and is in a backstage segment with Dasha.
Yep. And gets about 2 points across.
And not that we've never heard Christian talk, so it's not like, oh, no. Like, I get it. He's been around the game forever now. But, come on, man. Like, make it a thing. Get it out in the crowd. Give it to the people. Make a spectacle of it. They made a spectacle of 2 appearances where he said nothing, and then finally he goes to speak. Nothing. He just speaks. It was kind of...
Yeah, he says he's a workhorse. And I don't know about you, Brian, but as a wrestling fan, a guy who just does his job, and he does his job well, that's super exciting and really brings me in.
Yeah, I care about promptness, that he was there early. I like that he helped set up craft services at catering.
Yes, he makes a mean cup of coffee, Brian.
Yes, I want somebody that's a good driver. I want, just things that are done promptly.
Yeah, so we got a guy who likes doing his job.
Good for him.
Riveting stuff.
Riveting.
So moving on from there, we do get the Moxley and Eddie Kingston versus the Good Brothers. The Good Brothers just couldn't wait to get their hands on old Eddie Kingston and jump Kingston during his entrance. They didn't even let him get off the ramp.
Okay, this part kind of bugged me because within the last 5 minutes, these 2 numbskulls, these 2 knuckleheads, Moxley and Kingston, are together backstage taping their wrists. Yeah, probably pre-recorded. Right. I understand that. But not in the story of the night. He's taping his wrist. That means they're getting ready to go wrestle. John Moxley's rolling his neck 947 times to crack his neck and get ready to go out and fight, right? He's doing everything to kind of get pre-warmed up. Excuse me now. And then they have one backstage segment with Christian, and now they go to come out. They're introduced, right? And they come out separate. One, they were just together. Then they come out separate, get jumped, and then Moxley's about 2.5 minutes late and comes out of the opposite tunnel that Kingston was even in. So it wasn't even like, all right, man, we're going to take separate entrances, but you go first. And then I'll come out. And then, why was John Moxley coming out of the tunnel?
He never comes out of a tunnel. He always comes out of the parking lot. And
Right.
The fire.
It would have made more sense to have him come out of running from the back fire exit, climbing over the building and jumping in, like scaling the sides of it to get into the building to go rescue his buddy that they separated. But no, they're both. Come on, man. Little continuity.
Maybe a little deeper, Brian, because it's been rumor and innuendo, and it was confirmed that AEW has a babyface tunnel and a heel tunnel. And Cody comes out of the middle because he is in the middle. He's a line rider. Eddie came out of the babyface tunnel, and when Moxley comes in for the save after he's on QT time, he comes out of the heel tunnel.
Yeah, or it just made for better TV for him to run in an angle across the screen, so it looked like a surprise.
We need continuity here. So Kingston's a babyface. Moxley's now a heel. It's official.
That's it. We're writing it. So we're just going to call it as we see it now. That's just the way it is.
The tunnel makes the decisions. Nobody goes against the tunnel.
You can't go against the tunnel. Tunnel makes all. Yeah, then you get these. So then you get this bumblefuck of a match for a little bit.
Yeah, this is another one right here where we have a 10-minute match outside the ring before the match even starts. Moxley comes out and he attacks both Good Brothers, and then we end up just with an outside the ring match with pretty much Moxley and Eddie Kingston just getting the living shit kicked out of them by Gallows and Anderson here.
Yeah, that's kind of the gimmick with these two. They show Eddie Kingston. They think the way of making them look tough is to show that Eddie and John can take a beating again.
They sure get the shit kicked out of them a lot.
They keep coming back.
Yeah, maybe it's the Rocky syndrome. Rocky, I think in Rocky 4, when he fought Ivan Drago, he got knocked down at least 67 times in like one round and just kept popping up.
That was the only thing that I was taking from this, is that, man, they're just beating the shit out of these guys again. And
then we roll Eddie Kingston's dead, bloated ass right into the ring there. And now, with Gallows and Anderson in perfect health, Moxley's dead on outside of the ring underneath one of the barriers there. And then we roll Kingston's dead ass into the ring. And then that's when we're going to ring the bell. Go ahead and start the match. These guys are in fantastic shape.
Oh, that's right. Everybody's in here now. Okay, you got your guy out in the corner there. All right, good. One man in from each team. Grab your tag ropes.
So yeah, we get most of the beginning of this match here is just Anderson and Gallows keeping Eddie Kingston isolated and beating the shit out of him until Kingston can finally hit an exploder, and he gets Mox in for the hot tag. And Mox, injured shoulder and all, is just lighting the place on fire and cleaning house on Carl Anderson here, just whipping the shit out of Carl Anderson.
Yeah, I thought this match could have been a lot cooler. They could have done a lot more with it, I think. You've got the guys, they're coming over from Impact. For one, you can still run with that angle, that they're from Impact, in an invasion type angle. Two, they're one of the best tag teams around currently. The pool's not very full of good tag teams. So,
right.
And then you've got two pretty good, you got one of your biggest stars, John Moxley, and his good friend that he's got him creeping on the come up there with Eddie Kingston. I just thought that it was just very middle of the road. There was nothing exciting about any of this. There was no, what was the story? Why do they care? Why do I care that these two are fighting? These two teams.
And yeah, I have a similar question. Just what were they trying to accomplish here? Just showing that Gallows and Anderson are assholes, and Kingston and Mox have heart, that they can just get their ass whooped and keep coming back.
Right. that's what they did. They showed that, but what does it mean and what is it for? Put the Impact titles up. Shit, have Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley win them. I would find out how to watch Access TV on a Tuesday night to see those, to see that match.
One thing we get out of this match is that Jon Moxley cannot perform. He is not very good at the suicidas. He made a little dive on Gallows here, and they end up just kind of high-fiving in midair. The only parts of their bodies that even collided were their hands, and Mox ends up landing on his feet.
High five.
This was a fucking pile of poop, this suicida. That just goes to show you that, A, we don't need it. We don't need suicidas in every single match. And B, let the Ray Phoenixes of AEW do them. Let the Bucks of AEW do them. But Jon Moxley's big ass has no reason to be doing suicidas.
No, because you don't see the opposite way, though, right? You don't see people doing what Jon Moxley does in having, his type of intense, hardcore style of, of brawling matches. So he don't dive. You don't beat each other with barbed wire bats or try to be Jon Moxley, and he won't try to be, a luchador, and everybody's good. That's what separated wrestling. It separates characters, people, life, the world, real life.
Right, but this is all inclusive wrestling, Brian. So normally you got certain types of wrestlers and they have their specialties. Jon Moxley would never do any of the moves that a Ray Phoenix would do. And on the other end of the spectrum, you got your Jon Moxley barbed wire baseball bat exploding dildo match. You would never have two girls do that kind of match. As we see later in the show,
wink.
We basically get Moxleyette versus Moxleyette as our main event. So, but back to this match, that Moxley shouldn't be doing suicidas, and he proves it right here. The Good Brothers take over again on Mox, and Mox ends up rolling up Anderson for the lucky win.
Yeah, wasn't even given enough to know why this mattered, because Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston hate Kenny Omega and everything that elite thing stands for. So they just got to get at these guys.
What I'm thinking is happening in AEW is they're writing stories.
And then they put them all in a hat, and then you grab one before you go out. Blindly, the referee then tells you what has to happen before the bell rings.
I don't think the matches are the stories. I think the matches are just ways to get to the next part of the story. Because I don't know, it just seems like what they wanted to get at here was that to put tension between the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega, more tension. Yeah. And they just had to throw this match in there to have a reason to get them all in the same ring.
And I can respect that to an extent too, because that's what a lot of wrestling has been for us in the, quote, use the term loosely, free wrestling, meaning your weekly shows, right? Go back to WWE, right. Go back to Superstars, WWF Superstars, early years of Raw, Nitro, so on and so forth. That they didn't want to have you see Stone Cold versus Shawn Michaels until you paid them $60 to watch it, or whatever the pay-per-view cost. So you didn't let those two, it was all about what happened around it. It was Shawn Michaels fighting this guy and Stone Cold fighting this guy. So Stone Cold couldn't fight Shawn. He had to fight Triple H and, all that type of stuff. So I get that when you're having these matches of the guys trying to get at the factions, but I didn't know why. But some of it doesn't make sense. Again, it's just a match that they throw in to talk about the ending. But it happens on pay-per-views. It happens on there's no connection between everything. It's just we'll do this, and then these guys are out, then we'll do that. Then we'll do this and we'll do this, and then these guys will be out and we'll do that. It doesn't connect together any long-term way.
Right. It just seems like the matches are connected to the point that they're trying to make. The threads are really thin on how things are being connected here.
Yes, then you get the Bucks come out, right?
Yeah, so Moxley rolls up Anderson, gets the lucky win. Anderson and Gallows aren't too happy about that. They immediately attack Mox and Omega, and Don Callis comes out. I'm sorry. They attack Mox and
Kingston.
here, and then Omega and Don Callis come out. Kingston tries to make the save, knocking Kenny Omega out of the chair, and poor Eddie Kingston gets his leg put in a chair, and we know what happens then. We knows what happens when you put limbs in a chair, Brian.
They're gonna get broken.
That always.
At least till
We
next
saw
week.
Randy's arm. Yeah.
At least till next Wednesday. You might hobble around on Instagram for a minute and then forget about it, and you'll be fine by Wednesday. I promise.
And then, Kingston gets a broken leg, a temporary broken leg for his trouble, and Moxley ends up with his head and neck in a chair. So the only logical thing you can think of here is either A, they're going to break John Moxley's neck, or B, nothing's going to happen. And it was B. Nothing happened.
And it was B. They didn't break his neck on live TV.
Wow. Who would have thought that they wouldn't want to break John Moxley's neck on live TV?
Again, probably could have been a better story, as he could have had a lot more time on the mic and then really sold that he had a neck injury leading up to their pay-per-view in May.
Hell, it could have been the laziest 6 months of Moxley's life. He could have did all his promos from a wheelchair and never had to step in the ring.
I mean, it was the best case scenario that happened to Britt Baker. She got put in a wheelchair and life was good after that.
It worked for her. It could work for Mox. But so Omega's got John Moxley's head in the chair. One of the Good Brothers is about to break Moxley's neck, and the Young Bucks come in, and they make the save. They don't beat anyone up, but they get in between the Good Brothers and Omega there, and make the save. They don't want to see Moxley paralyzed, and there we're just in a state of confusion right here. We don't know at this point, at this very moment in time, what the Young Bucks are thinking. We don't know if they're trying to break up the Elite for good. We don't know if they're trying to mend fences with Omega. And that's the inner chaos that's happening at this point in this match.
Yeah. I'm kind of sick of this story, so I don't care anymore.
This culminates into the Good Brothers and Omega. They've all got their little wolf boy symbols in the air, and they're trying to goad the Bucks into joining them and to sweeten it up with them. And the Bucks refuse. The Bucks decide they're not sweetening it up.
Yeah, they're sweet enough. They're sweet and low this week. Too sweet and low. And they've done this one twice now. They had the Bucks join them, made a really cool shirt. I almost bought it. Glad I didn't. The next week they didn't like the Elite. The Bucks got kicked out. Then Kenny wasn't their friend anymore, even though they just joined their group. And then now they want him to join again, even though they were just told that Kenny doesn't respect them and doesn't recognize them anymore as being anything worthy of it. And then they turn him down, and then they get mad. So hey Eric, you're a shitty. Hey Eric, you're a shitty friend. I don't want you to be my friend anymore. Hey Eric, do you want to be my friend? You don't want to be my friend. Like Jesus Christ.
You know what? You know what would have brought me in, Brian? Maybe you should have offered to let me be your butler, and then
well,
we could be friends.
Duh. Anybody will be anybody's butler. This story's just been told or tried to have been told 3-4 times now.
They're just recycling it. It's just
it's not even they can't even recycle it. It's not even done yet from the first time they told it. Finish the first one.
Yeah, they're pouring Mountain Dew out of the bottle to fill it back up with Dr. Pepper.
It's like, geez, man.
Or I guess Diet Mountain Dew.
Yeah, with Moon Mist, some Faygo Moon Mist. It's close. It's the same, but not the same. Not as good. Anyways, so that happened, and the Bucks bounce, and they say no.
And now we've got Tony Schiavone on stage, and he's going to interview Sting and Darby Allin after their cinematic match that happened on Revolution.
Yeah, the cinematic match that they got to keep telling you is cinematic, and then they got to post pictures on their Instagram of the crew and Sting and Darby Allin from the cinematic match from Revolution. I get it.
So yeah, Sting is introduced first, and then of course it's snowing.
Of course.
Yeah. I mean, he can't even come out to do an interview without the whole funeral music and fucking crows and snow.
What happened if he would have came out to the if his contracts and everything wouldn't have lined up and he would have made his debut at like Beach Break? Would it like blow sand everywhere every time he came out? Like, because he debuted at Winter Is Coming. So he had to like, he'd be like the Sandman, like it would.
Then if he came out at Beach Break, they'd have to like pay that Dudestrom or whatever that so that they could use Sandstorm.
Darude.
I could see Tony Khan buying that just to have a Sandstorm every time Sting came out.
Everybody's just wiping their eyes the entire match. Oh my God, I never saw Sting fight.
But yeah, and Sting doesn't even get to talk during this interview. It's all about Darby. Darby makes a very valid point. He's been the TNT champion since November 2020. So we're going on 6 months of him being champion here. And he's only defended the TNT title 3 times. And he finds that to be a joke. Darby wants to be a fighting champion and start defending the TNT belt every week.
Hey, that should be a clause in that title in general. It should be It should almost be the main event, like every week, or at least your your hour change main event. You know, got to get him at the top of the hour.
That's pretty much what Cody did when he was holding it, right?
He was your 9:00 main event.
Except Cody was defending it against fucking Warhorse and losers like that.
Losers like that. The only good one we got from that is Eddie Kingston.
Yeah, that's true. And Lee, the name I was trying to think of earlier
starts with Lee Harvey Oswald.
Lee Johnson.
I think it's Lee Johnson.
Is it?
Yeah. Pretty sure.
Cody defended against him too. That was probably his debut.
Well, good for him. That and 50 cents to get you a cup of coffee.
So Darby makes this decision. He will now be defending the TNT belt every week. And in honor of Brody Lee, he wants to make his first title defense against a member of the Dork Order. Lance Archer, not a big fan of that. He feels he should be first in line and offers to put Darby Allin in a coffin since he likes coffins so much.
You know, this was such a heavy Dark Order show the last, 2 weeks. These sons of bitches ain't got about 2 seconds of airtime this week.
Nope, we get a little Dark Order sprinkled in a little later in the show here. But the stars of this segment here are Darby Allin, Lance Archer, and Jake Roberts by telling Darby not to freeze his butt off, to go put his bun back on. You know, he's got to put his bun back on, Brian, because Darby Allin isn't nothing but a weenie.
A weenie. Ugh.
This is Jake Roberts we're talking about. This is one of the most psychological, manipulative, evil sons of bitches that have ever been on professional wrestling television. And he just told Darby Allin to go put his bun on because he's a weenie.
Yep.
What can you say? Like, who wrote this shit? If Jake Roberts came up with that, then
he's not the genius that he's overrated in his promo cutting abilities.
He needs to take that cognitive test where you have to tell what's a zebra and what's a donkey. And And maybe he should be put in a mental institution or a rest home.
Or rest home. He needs to go back to the accountability crib with DDP and just relax and do yoga.
Because he is out of it, man. He's got dementia or something if he came up with that line.
Nonetheless, it
But,
still stinks on ice no matter who wrote it.
Yeah. Team Taz makes their entrance. I didn't think we were going to see them tonight at all. I thought maybe they had the night off. Taz comes out. Taz, usually the mouthpiece of Team Taz here. He's got the mic in his hand. Brian Cage takes the mic out of his hand and directs his attention towards Sting. And what did old Cage-a-Rooney have to say? Did he mention how he lost clean to Tessa Blanchard in Impact? No. He surprised us and said that he still respects Sting and that Sting is still the icon.
So now they're friends. Great.
Yeah, and Team Taz is awfully hot at Brian Cage just for respecting Sting and saying he's an icon. And so I don't know. Storylines just go every which way in AEW. So this could be a babyface turn for Cage. He could be leaving Team Taz, or what I'm going with is all this will be swept under the rug and things will be back to normal in Team Taz by next week.
Or, he walked out, he stuck his hand in the fishbowl, he pulled out a piece of paper, he unfolded it as he was walking out, and he goes, holy shit, it looks like I got to put over Sting for this one. And Taz was none the least, they don't inform you. It's like, whose line is it anyway? So you go out and you just got something to say, and they're like, Brian Cage is going to say something, so you guys got to react now. And they get live reactions, so Taz is going, what do you mean? This doesn't make any sense.
Yes. It's an improv show. This is whose line is it anyway?
I think it's starting to make sense now.
Wiling out. Yes.
It's wiling out. Like, Nick Cannon's a writer.
So that was that. Everyone just walks off the stage after that point. Team Taz gets hot at Cage for respecting Sting, and then everybody just goes their separate ways.
Then it's over.
Yeah.
Everybody go out your tunnel. Tunnel vision.
We get a little Scorpio Sky package, and he's just tired of getting pushed to the side. He's wrestling Savant, and he's ready to take what's his.
Should have took it last week.
Yeah. I mean, he grabbed the brass ring at Revolution.
And then he couldn't even cash in 3 nights later for the TNT Championship. So what's he going for now? The Heavyweight Championship?
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't get the point of this. I've never really seen Scorpio Sky get shit on by the industry by any means. It's just that he doesn't have the it factor. He doesn't stick out. He doesn't walk into a room and you're like, holy shit, it's Scorpio Sky.
You mean when he's cutting a promo, he doesn't have to say, he has to say something and you still don't listen, where Eddie Kingston put tape on his wrist and you were captivated by the son of a bitch?
Precisely, Brian. You hit the nail right on the head. I did listen to Scorpio Sky talk during this whole thing, and I have no idea what he said.
Eddie Kingston put tape on his wrist, quoted Tupac, quoted 50 Cent, laughed at John Moxley, and, he's on a pedestal.
One of the best promos of the night right there. Motherfucker just said two quotes from rappers.
And it was done.
But the whole 2 minutes of him taping his wrist fed right into it.
Exactly. Yeah, Scorpio Sky is he's a great performer. He can wrestle. He's a great athlete. I'm not taking anything away from that. It just doesn't grab you. It's like Shelton Benjamin for me in WWE in the Hurt Business. Like, if he wouldn't have got gobbled up into the Hurt Business, I would have really cared even less about him. So it's just one of those similar guys that just exist in the ring, in the business, and you don't know much about him, or even Evan Bourne or whatever his name is now. I don't care about him either. He's a great athlete. Just don't give a shit. I don't even know his new name.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you either. And him and his brother are both performing. I can't remember their names. But we get the Ray Phoenix here, the other half of the Lucha Bros, and he's with his buddy Pac. And Phoenix is taking on Angelico, the rave dancer.
Cool.
Yeah. And this
This is a time killer.
started off semi interesting because it was a little different than what we're used to seeing in AEW. We just get a bunch of different arm locks and submission attempts from Angelico on Ray Phoenix here. We go to break and come back, and we switch to a more Ray Phoenix style of match. Some back and forth shenanigans. Nothing memorable about this match, and Ray Phoenix gets the pin.
There you go. Ray
This was your piss break match of the night.
This was the piss break match of the night, leading into dun 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 the main event.
Almost.
Because
guess who's back?
Marvez.
Back again. Marvez is back.
That's
with
right.
his friend. Miro is working out backstage. Marvez is back there with Miro, and Miro's ready to move on. He's ready to move on from Schmuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy. He wants to focus on doing something bigger, but not Kip. Kip is still salty about Schmuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy here. His wedding was ruined. And don't forget, Brian, not only was Kip Sabian's wedding ruined by Schmuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy, but Miro knocked his wife off of the ring apron by pushing Orange Cassidy.
Cool. Why aren't they using this connection, or not this connection? Why aren't they connecting the real life drama between Miro and Cornette now to bring it back to the beginning of the podcast? Not saying that he has to come out and attack Jim Cornette, but why isn't it thrown around like this is corny? Why aren't they even trying to play up to what's happening on Twitter in real life? You know, similar
Right.
like the Bucks kind of took the stab at it, right? With Don Callis and the whole nine with the don't slap a leg gimmick.
Right.
So why isn't there like he should have been eating corn?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Maybe corn chips. Something
Yeah,
to
like
that
it should have all been corny and something along those lines, or looking for like something about glasses could have got over. You could have just really hit it in there about old school wrestlers, or called it wrestling.
Yeah, but
They don't.
maybe this is an attempt to get Miro back on the right track from being a pajama wearing Minnie Mouse t-shirt sporting video game goofball. Miro has a little more serious tone right now because he doesn't care about Kip Sabian's wife. He doesn't care about Kip Sabian's family drama. All he wants at this point is the championship, and that is all Miro is focused on.
That is all.
He does drive the point home that outside of the wrestling ring, him and Kip are still buds.
Cool.
Cool.
Like it just doesn't. Again, just there were some very good spots in this show, and then there were some spots that you just didn't know where they were going with. And this would be I don't know why we wasted our time with this.
I mean, it does leave a little intrigue on my end because it is like, I've been waiting for Miro to drop the goofball gimmick since he basically walked through the doors. So maybe we are getting a more serious badass Miro, but again, we know how the ADD booking and AEW goes, and everything could just get lost by next week.
Yeah.
Miro could be playing fucking Mario Kart next week for all we know. But as of right now, it looks like Miro's leaning towards becoming a badass again.
Well, finally, let's do something. He's only wrestled twice. Like, let's get your shit together, guy.
Yeah. People do ask me, if you shit on AEW so much, why do you watch? The potential. There's so much potential floating around in Daly's place, and I want to see it go somewhere. So yeah, I get a little bit excited when a guy like Miro, who could really do some damage as a monster heel, actually starts hinting towards he might actually find his place in this company.
Agreed.
And Marvez seems to teleport during the commercial break here, and now he's with the Dork Order, and he's asking the Dork Order who's going to accept Darby Allin's challenge to challenge for the TNT Championship. And I ain't gonna lie, Brian. I bit and I was scared for a moment because who leaps out in front of the crowd and accepts the challenge on behalf of the Dork Order?
Johnny Hungee!
No, before Johnny Hungee,
Oh,
Brody Jr. accepts the challenge.
that's right.
And I was like, no, they're not going to let a 9-year-old wrestle Darby Allin. And thankfully, they do not. They do explain that he's only 9 years old.
They break it down for you. Listen, you're only 9, kid.
I mean, he's the same size as Marco Stunt, but he's only 9. And but no, ultimately, now the Meat Man, Johnny Hungee, accepts the challenge.
Johnny Hungee!
Did you know he's the Meat Man too?
I did. That's a
didn't
new
know
one.
that.
They made that up this week. Cool.
So yeah,
The Meat Man.
yeah,
Does he eat a lot of meat?
Man.
Does he deliver meat? Is that his other job during the week?
Who knows? But yeah. So he's not going to win that match. We can call that right there. Johnny Hungee is not going to be your TNT Championship next week. You heard it here first, folks.
No.
MJF at this point solidifies that his team name or his faction's name now is the Pinnacle by taking down the Inner Circle sign on the locker room that was held up with rolled up duct tape. And he puts up the Pinnacle sign
with rolled up
Pinnacle.
duct tape. Nothing but class at AEW. All the duct tape you
Pinnacle. Need. The Pinnacle has officially taken over the Inner Circle locker room.
Dun dun dun. And the Inner Circle really never makes an appearance around here, do they?
No, I don't think one member made an appearance this week. They had the week off.
Yeah, nothing big. You didn't get Sammy Guevara finally coming back. So why put him on TV the second week?
Yeah. Why why would you want to do that?
Silly talk.
You just want to shit on them with promos all night and not even show their faces.
You silly goose.
So that takes us into our main event of the night, which I was like, oh no, they're main eventing with a girls match. We've got Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa in a lights out unsanctioned match. And the rules, in case you weren't paying attention, of a lights out unsanctioned match is that the lights turn off for a couple seconds, they turn back on, and all of a sudden, by the power of magic, this match doesn't count. And AEW has no control over this match,
except for it's in their
liabilities.
Except for it's in their ring with their referee,
on their TV,
but they have nothing to do with it. They're just not liable.
Right. So to drive the point home that this is no DQs, also Rebel interferes the minute the match starts and attacks Thunder Rosa with a crutch.
She did. What I am glad about, during the whole run of this thing, though, is mostly just these two beating the shit out of each other. And I really,
that's what I got.
I really rightly enjoyed that,
with
though.
Chairs and tables.
So I had a fear that there was just going to get lost in what it was supposed to, or what it could have been, and then what it was going to turn into. But it didn't do that. They kept it very organized. And this was these two ladies were going to beat the shit out of each other. Rebel only got involved a little bit. I mean, she is the manager or whatever, sidekick of Britt, so that's going to happen. But I thought I was just ready for like 700 people to be involved the entire time, right? A rotating cast of characters. You were going to get Riho coming out, and you were going to get that other Michinaki or whatever it was, and everybody else from the AEW women's locker room coming out and getting involved throughout this match. And that didn't happen. They kept it pretty clean on all that. So no big outside interferences. Now you knew gimmicks were going to be all over the place as it's a unsanctioned, no rules, murder your opponent match.
Right. Just to reiterate on what you said, seeing Rebel get involved right from the beginning, you assume it's just going to be a shit show of people interfering left and right, but that wasn't the case. We've just got back and forth, pure brawling. We're slowly introducing the gimmicks throughout the match. We're starting with chairs. Thunder Rosa's starting off a little slow. These chair shots she's giving Britt Baker are very ginger. She's not laying into him much at all, which is surprising considering the ending of this match.
Yeah, there was a few things that I thought Thunder Rosa was a little ginger on as we go through this, so I'll talk about it some more.
Yeah. At one point in this match, if you're paying attention to the audio, probably most people weren't, but the audience starts singing Thunderstruck by AC/DC in honor of Thunder Rosa, obviously. Don't know exactly how royalties work, if humming or singing along to a licensed song counts, but I'm sure Tony Khan probably wants to nip that at the bud to not take any chances. Not sure he's trying to cut a check to AC/DC just so his audience can sing Thunderstruck.
Yeah, I think you can get away with that. But if they were to play the song, then it's a wrap, Jack.
Yeah. Britt Baker, at some point, an entire pile of chairs ends up in the middle of the ring, and that's an awkward pile looking at chairs. Britt Baker superplexes Thunder Rosa right onto that pile of chairs, and that was our real first oof of the night. That looked pretty mean.
When she dove into that, they didn't baby that or nothing. It just
No.
They went for it, and she's like, I'm gonna, in the sense of the story, I'm gonna break my back to possibly kill you. Right?
She took it. She took it like a champ.
They all took, both of those ladies. They took that chair suplex, looking strong.
We get Britt Baker's face driven into a ladder. We get Thunder Rosa drop kicking a ladder right into Britt's face. And at this point, because I didn't really see anything that would bust Britt Baker open the hard way, I'm assuming she bladed her own hairline. And man, she knew jacked herself, man. She fucking Brit Transit right here. Gashed wide open because she's got a crimson mask, as so to speak, in no time.
Yeah, that I couldn't tell if it happened the hard way or the easy way, but nonetheless, it happened, my friend. And she played up every second of it.
You took the words right out of my mouth. She was bleeding like a stuck pig, and she took advantage of it, just like she did with her broken nose months earlier.
I think there was some real moments, if you watch closely, to people trying to help bail her out, because she's getting kind of where she was at, obviously, that hairline. She's bleeding a lot, and it's coming down in her face and getting into her eyes. And you can see at one point, Rebel puts her arm out into the ring, and Britt wipes her face across her white jean jacket to clear it off, like Rebel's trying to get something to help her friend. Like, her literal real-life friend is bleeding into her eyes, and she's on live TV or pre-recorded live TV.
Right.
To get to clean up her face, and then you see the ref trying to even wipe it away at one point. The ref was checking her face, and I think it was even a real legitimate check. Hey, we gotta I gotta check your face here for your make sure we don't gotta call this match. And in the meantime, trying to get some of that shit out of her face so she can continue. But some of those faces she was making at the camera while she was crawling, and she saw the camera was on her, and she made sweet bloody face love to that camera.
She was basically printing t-shirts over at prowrestlingtees.com during this match.
Yeah.
We get Britt Baker giving Thunder Rosa a face buster right into the ladder. Then we get Thunder Rosa giving Britt Baker an Olympic slam onto a ladder.
Yeah, that was that Death Valley Driver Olympic-style slam from, the mid-rope, right?
Yeah.
That was the one. It's not bad when I say she was a little ginger. You can just tell she was being a very good professional, Thunder Rosa, in this match, and still taking care of her opponent, as she just knows how to do it, and she did it very good. It looked good, but if you watch, you can tell she just takes care of her opponent very nicely. She plants the leg down just right and gets her to hit that. Make sure she hits right across the square of the back, not too make sure it's nice and flat and even. It was well done.
Yeah, it was on par with Kurt Angle doing the Angle Slam. That was a really good Death Valley driver. Um, these women are just absolutely beating the living shit out of each other. Thunder Rosa takes a DDT and a curb stomp onto the chair and still kicks out after a 2 count. Um, at this point, if this shit was real and legitimate, Thunder Rosa would have CTE. She would need a brain scan. She'd have the brain of a 94-year-old war veteran if you scanned her brain after this match.
Yes, she did take a lot of the headshots. Now, earlier in the show here, we talked about how, the Cody match, how it was Diamond or Cody Cutter, Canadian Destroyer, backpack splash, the whole nine, and they keep kicking out. In these style matches, when they're just slamming each other and beating the hell out of each other and they kick out, though, I like it. I don't mind some false finishes. Just I want to see people because they got me hooked in, right?
Right. Yeah, this match I'm hooked and I just want to watch more of it. This is where after that DDT and curb stomp, this is where the t-shirt is printed. Britt Baker sees that camera, squats down so her face is between the ropes, and just smiling, cheesing at the camera with a face full of blood. And this is where Reba hands her the velvet bag from under the ring, and Britt Baker opens the bag with her teeth.
And this is the point that
I'm loving this.
This is the point that Tony Schiavone, Excrement, and JR cannot figure out what could possibly be in a black velvet bag from underneath the wrestling ring. More importantly, even at the corner underneath the wrestling ring. There is only one thing stored in a black velvet bag underneath the wrestling ring. Those are silver thumbtacks.
Yes, we've seen it 100 times in 100 different wrestling promotions. It's 100% of the time it's thumbtacks. It's not a bottle of Crown Royal.
Never.
It's fucking silver thumbtacks.
They should have let it up with a commentator saying she's not going to do this. Oh, not saying they shouldn't have jumped the gun and said it was tacks. Let the tacks show you their tacks. They should have teased it by saying, "No, she wouldn't. She's not going to do that." What is she thinking? They could have, and you would have known. Okay, you know, they know, I know, you know, I know, you know, I know, they know, I know. And then those silver tacks come out. They look great on TV. The light hits them. They're glistening and shining out of a black bag. It all looks wonderful. They just, what could it be? What do you think is in there? Headphones. She's got a pair of headphones in there. She's going to listen to a fucking podcast.
She's got Beats by Dre presented. That's how relaxed she is.
Hell do you think is in there, you moron?
So this Britt Baker opens the velvet bag with her teeth, smiling, dumps out all the thumbtacks. Rebel ends up getting drop kicked through or off the ring apron through a table by Thunder Rosa here. And this is where we tease that Thunder Rosa is going into the thumbtacks because that's what we expect. Britt Baker, when you look at her, you know she's a tough chick. She's been through a lot of shit. She's had her nose broken. She's had her leg broken. She's bleeding like a stuck pig from her head right now. But you're still not expecting Britt Baker to take a thumbtack bump.
You might,
Thunder Rosa, I could see it.
Thunder Rosa, you're going, well, she's done a lot of the lucha libre. She's come from Mexico. Like, she's a little wild. She's an independent wrestler. You know, she's going to take the thumbtack bump. Well, I mean, Britt's, you know, she's not going to do it.
Britt's dating a mainstream WWE star in Adam Cole. She's not the indie mud show thumbtack backyard wrestling type.
But son of a bitch.
Oh, boy, was I wrong. Thunder Rosa reverses whatever move was going to happen to her and ends up power bombing the absolute shit out of Britt Baker right into those thumbtacks.
I mean, Mick Foley didn't take better thumbtacks.
No. I think more stuck in Mick Foley.
More surface area.
Yeah. But I'll be damned if Thunder Rosa didn't put her all into that power bomb, and Britt Baker took it flat like a champ on her back, right into those thumbtacks.
I'm still curious on how that would feel. I don't ever want to feel it, but you're curious on how it would feel. Getting a bunch of thumbtacks poked in your back like that.
Yeah, and at this point we're at we're at the minute mark of 1 hour 58 minutes. So this thing's wrapping up. I did check that timestamp because my son was on his way home, and I'm like, I'm rewinding to the part where she opens up the thumbtacks, and he's watching this with me. At this point, he's not home yet. Britt Baker puts in the lockjaw on Thunder Rosa. And what's the best way to get out of a lockjaw when you're laying next to a pile of thumbtacks, Brian?
Well, let's roll somebody into the thumbtacks.
Britt Baker just got done taking a power bomb in the thumbtacks and rolls right back into the thumbtacks with Thunder Rosa, every ounce of Thunder Rosa's weight laying right on top of her.
These ladies went for it. I don't
100%.
I don't know if it was just I don't know what was so different between the writing and the ideas between the hardcore match with Moxley and Omega versus this. They should have turned the lights out for Kenny Omega and John Moxley. I mean, if this makes magic happen.
I mean, they should have turned the lights out at the end of that match so nobody would have saw it. But I digress. Thunder Rosa ends up wrapping up this match nicely with a Fire Thunder driver through the table on the outside of the ring. Gets the 1, 2, 3, and Britt looks like she's been through hell, man. She took this,
but she still wins.
She took the L, but she looks like $1 million.
Still wins, taking the loss. Thunder Rosa took a beating and won. She still looks good. Nobody lost. And everything that's happened to Britt Baker over the last year has come from her getting fucking beat up somehow. Busted nose on TV, broken leg, and now this cut is just gonna, to the moon. The way that she bled.
And my son got home a couple minutes after this, and my son, like I said, he's 17 years old, not a wrestling fan. He was a fan of Cena back when he was 3 or 4 years old. But now he makes fun of me every Wednesday. Oh, Dad, you got to watch wrestling again. The kid will not sit down and watch a show with me. But I showed him the last 3 or 4 minutes of this match, and his jaw was on the floor. He was like, wow. He was blown away by this.
Didn't expect it, especially from Britt Baker.
Right. She's in an effort, not trying not to be chauvinistic here, but she's too pretty for this shit.
Right. Right. You just go, she's a girly girl. She's not out there getting her, getting dirty.
You're not going to see Alexa Bliss taking power bombs into thumbtacks.
Slicing her forehead like that, getting color like that. Out of control color, too.
Sasha Banks doing this shit. And she had that gimmicky ass match, Hell in the Cell with Bayley, and she wasn't pushing it nowhere near this level.
No, this was pretty damn good note to go out on. Anything that I really shit on during this, as we were talking about it, I forgot about while watching it, right? And I went, damn, right. Dynamite was money.
and our show, we tape and put live on YouTube on Thursday. It airs on Friday. Jim Cornette's show comes out Saturday night, but I can already tell you he will pick this match apart because it's girls doing hardcore shit, and it's not taking them out. Basically meaning if girls can take thumbtacks, if girls can take superplexes into piles of chairs, if girls can take curb stomps into chairs and still not be dead, then it makes any guys who do matches with these aspects look like complete pussies.
Yeah, but the guys went first and looked like pussies.
Yeah. So
the guys
Nah.
set the bar low. The girls out there stole the show.
Yeah, definitely.
The guys looked like
girls
pussies.
killed it this match.
If we're just going to compare the last hardcore match that we saw, that barbed wire death match, then they never had this match. Those guys, those two, still look like pussies.
Yeah, these girls definitely stole it away from them. And that's why I topped off the beginning of our talking about AEW this week by asking you, which one of those two matches would you rather see again? And 100% of the time, I would choose Britt Baker Thunder Rosa over Omega and Moxley.
Oh, yeah. For a watchability factor, 100%. It was great. You want to watch it for a cringe factor, go back and watch the barbed wire death match.
So, yeah, girls, it does kind of showcase to use the F word here, that the shit is fake, that they're taking care of each other, because these girls should have been dead after this match. So it does kind of put the spotlight on the fakeness, so to speak, of pro wrestling. But I don't know. I found myself lost in it, and I enjoyed every minute.
Very surprised. 100%. Surprise factor through the roof. And definitely enjoyed it myself, too. And I think
that wrapped up our AEW show this week. I did not get my eyes on NXT. I don't know about you.
I did not either. My apologies. We will discuss that next week. We got Fastlane, WWE's Fastlane. I think we're also going to try and peel our eyes and watch the new NWA, their pay-per-view this Sunday as well. So I'm going to try and peep that out. We can talk about that, talk about WWE, and we're gearing up towards WrestleMania season, or it is WrestleMania season. We're gearing up towards WrestleMania. And
the
big
it's right
event,
around the corner.
Big event coming up here in early April. So that's that. Make sure you guys head on over to YouTube right here. We're live on YouTube at this moment while I'm speaking. And if you're listening to this while we're recorded, head on over to YouTube and subscribe and join and like us over there. Share some videos. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure you leave a rating and a review. That would be wonderful. Join us on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok at thekayfabesmark. Smark. And make sure you head on over to audibletrial.com/thekayfabesmark. Get a free audiobook, free 30-day free audiobook and a 30-day trial of Audible. And there you go, man. audibletrial.com/thekayfabesmark. Eric, what you got?
I've got nothing else to put on top of that except one thing and one thing only. Hootie hoo. We out the gates.